Hello, thank you for joining me. I'm OG Daneger, and this is part 2 of the series which I just started here on the Poor Folks Broadcasting Network about being in search of God. Now, I got feedback, so before I move forward, I thought what I would do is address some of the feedback that came in. There seems to be a lot of confusion, a lot of questions about almost the origin of man to an extent. What I mean is, people are trying to find other reasons for how and why the civilization in Egypt or before Egypt or during Egypt didn't come from Egyptians, didn't come from Africans, even though Egypt is in Africa. And some people seem to be misinformed also on how large at that time Africa was. Now, you know, in North America at one point, Canada and Mexico and the U.S. was all part of the same territory. The borders of each thing, or each country, was drawn by man. We drew those borders. You understand? So, until we drew those borders, people didn't know that they were from some different place or this, that, and the other. Was just all one place. It was the same thing in Africa. There are people who wanted to claim places that are myth that we have never actually found or found remnants of. The lost city of Atlantis, Mesopotamia, people coming from outer space and then making the civilization and making the pyramids and doing all, because the prevailing thought is these Africans could not have had the knowledge, the technology, the information to build these structures and civilization and sewage systems and homes, and they just refused to believe. They'd rather believe that it was a Martian that came down and made all these things possible than believe that it came from an African. I'm sorry to be the one to break this news to you. Not necessarily sorry. I'm saying that, but I'm not sorry. But I'm going to break the news to you. Last time I checked, the last time I looked, Egypt was in Africa. They hadn't moved it to the middle of Europe. They hadn't moved it north, east, west, south of Europe. It's still in Africa. That's where Egypt is. And so if you try to separate and say, well, X was developed and made in Iraq or Iran. Okay, before the Suez Canal was cut, that's the water that separates Asia, the bottom part of Europe, from Africa. Until that was cut in our time, until that was cut, you could walk across. It was all the same place. It was all the same people. Somebody walked across the line and raised their family, and somebody stayed on this side and raised their family. It was the same people. So when I say Abraham, Avram, whatever you want to call him, who was the father of the 3 major religions that I'm speaking about, no disrespect to Buddhism, Hinduism, and such. I'm speaking at this moment about Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. They all agree that Abraham is the father of their particular religious beliefs. That from that nucleus of Abraham, they all agree they came. All right. Abraham was born in Africa, in Chaldea, the country, city of Ur, in Africa. We just need to understand this concept, even if you're going to take it from a biblical or a perspective of the three religions I just talked to you about. When they talk about Moses being floated on the Nile River, the last time I checked, the Nile River was flowing in Africa. If you look in the second page of the Bible, or first page, depending on your size of the Bible, and they talk about the rivers flowing through the Garden of Eden. If you look where the Euphrates River is and was flowing, this is Africa, coming through and from Africa. I'm sorry, that's not what you want to hear, or what you want to think, or what you've been conditioned to think. But it's very simple to find out. You just Google it for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Anything I say, don't take my word for it. Google it for yourself. Do your own research. All right? I'm just stating the facts. If it hurts somebody's feelings, oh well. Okay? So I wanted to kind of address that, right? The reason that Egypt gets so much credit, because there were other civilizations and things that were going on during that time. But because Egypt had the wherewithal, the technology, the knowledge to put the information into the inside of the pyramids, to carve it into the rocks, to use paint to make paintings inside of the rocks, to tell the story of how they got there and things that they did. And because those things lasted this amount of time, it gives us evidence to see what it is that they're talking about and what it is that they did. There may have been other places that did other things. We can't find them. We can't find it. There's no records of it. There's no bones. There's no bricks and things that can be carbon dated, or tools or things. So we got to go on what we have. Never mind that the Martians brought something down. We don't have anything like that. We don't have any proof of that. If you want to believe that, hey, do your thing. Believe whatever you want to believe. I'm here talking about the facts. Okay? So if we're going to go on a journey to find the truth, and something that's fact-based, not, okay, well, this is what I believe. Because you can believe whatever you want. Everybody's entitled to their own beliefs. But the facts, that remains in place. That's until the facts are disproved, everybody, can rest on the facts, not people's opinions. Okay? So I just wanted to take a moment. We'll call this part 2. I just want to take a moment to address this before we move forward, because people seem to they have an issue with that. Okay? They're saying things that are not factual, right? So if you know that Abraham wasn't born until 1675 BC, before the Common Era, or before Christ, or whatever you're saying, right? He wasn't born until then. And if you know that by the time he was born, that Egypt was already in its 18th dynastic period. 18th dynastic period. Thousands and thousands of years before Abraham was born. There was already structure. There was already civilization. There was already medicine. They had birth control. They had science. They had astrology and astronomy. So let's be realistic about what we're talking about. That way we can move forward. And everybody can have the facts. And that way, when we conclude, you'll have the same information that I have. And you'll be able to draw your own conclusions on, have we been fooled? Not us, necessarily. Have our ancestors been fooled? Because our ancestors were told a whole different story. Ancestors were told, you had nothing to do with it. You people that have an origin from Africa, you didn't know anything. We taught you civilization. You had no education. Blah, blah, blah. And it turns out, I'm just saying, hit the subscribe, hit the bell notification, so you know when the next video comes out. And I am looking at your comments, and as I can, I will try to comment and address them if I think it will be helpful to everyone. All right. See you on the next. Peace.